I think the one thing companies could do is give them autonomy they wouldn't have if they weren't a lead. And if you're not doing that, then you're just giving someone more responsibility without the control. And that's a burden. I've actually had teams of all high performers. It's actually miserable. I never want it again. Rather than just always go, well, I guess we're going external. Be like, no, I need to light the ambition fire here and figure out who is willing.
There's just more ambition than positions. It's not a ladder, it's a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're actually interested in moving up with the company, the math just doesn't math for everybody who wants to do that.
There's definitely not more ambition than positions. That is not the case.
We are scheduled to follow up on the next stage in the employee lifecycle, which is this idea of development, growth and development. I have a plan. I have some things to talk about based on my work with corporate teams, but is there a direction you want to take this?
I think, the more I think about it, the more I think development is kind of like engagement, in that it is like kind of hard to like put a pin in. Like, what are we really talking about? What does it mean? I think it means like engagement. I think it means something different to every single person that says the word. Are we talking about like when we talk about professional development, are we talking about like specific skills, generic skills, a specific career goal? Like, I think it's just so much. If you polled 30 people, even in the same workplace, would you get the same answer? And I think it would be like a lot of Venn diagrams overlapping each other.
For sure. And that's the case with all of this stuff, right? That's why I laugh so much at this idea of just really dumb, basic questions that seem so simple, but we're not all aligned on what things mean, from engagement to operations to performance to any of this stuff. Development is a really interesting one because it is, at least in the last 12 months especially, the companies that I've worked with, it's been such a focus. And again, we touched on this, I think it was episode 2 of the problematic communication cycles based on engagement surveys. And so I think that's really what this stems from, is employees are answering really unfavorably to this idea of that I think I can grow here. I see myself here. I know I can have a career here. And so corporate is like, oh my goodness, we need to focus on development, whether that is increase their awareness of it, or we need to do better or make more obvious career, show them how they can grow here.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there are some serious, I think, tensions with that are more unique to retail than other industries. And I'll just dive right in.
Please.
The first one is turnover. It's just going to be a common theme in all of this. You cannot develop people who aren't staying long enough to grow. And I've had this conversation with more than one client who really wants to focus on improving their development scores, but their turnover is quite high. Their general employee experience sentiment is quite low. And so I asked them to think, are people answering unfavorably to the idea of having a career here because they're not aware of all the ways that they can move around, or it's because they're having a bad time and they don't see themselves staying because of their day-to-day experience? Thoughts on that from your store manager perspective?
Yikes. I think it's so convoluted, because I think one of the areas it actually starts with is the company is important, obviously, and whether people even want to grow there in the first place. But I also think leaders are important. And I actually said this at Old Navy, because Old Navy pays general managers quite well. And I remember saying to my peers, it's sort of like a joke in retail that like, haha, like, that's why I get paid the big bucks. Knee slapper. Literally just slapped my knee. Like, and it's this joke that's supposed to like insinuate that we don't get paid well. And I don't know if that's like managers that feel bad because we actually get paid well compared to our hourly staff. I don't really know where that stems from. I don't have the a psychology degree nor the time right at this moment, but I do think it does a disservice to people we want to grow because they're like, oh my God, you have to deal with all that and you still don't even get paid well. So I think it starts too at like a how are leaders portraying their position, not just general managers, but also like department managers, key holders, whatever. Are they portraying it as like, yep, I got more money and I'm more miserable? Or are they portraying it like, of course, there are some things that are like annoying or I don't like or challenges, but like overall, this is great. So, like, how are the leaders showing up day to day are going to impact, does anyone want to like move up? And I do feel like I have a chance um to move people up even with turnover, but I think it's like you almost have to like bring them into the culture first. Like you can't develop someone who I did have a person at Lush who basically was honest with me, and I thought this was real cute of them. That was like, you know, I want to grow here, but I also like feel like I have opportunities elsewhere. Basically, this person wanted to go down both pathways at once, thinking about external positions they could take that were better than the one they were in, and also have me develop them. And I actually agreed to that because I knew what would happen. And I don't ever want to tell someone that, like, first of all, I don't want anyone to ever be able to be like, the reason I'm not where I'm at is because Matt wouldn't let me get there or Matt stopped me. Like, I'm going to put all of my energy into you. And if you choose not to take it, that's on you. And so I put in some energy and then we had to have a conversation. And I was like, well, you're half checked out, which is kind of where I thought this was going. Like, you kind of need to be all in and like be willing to like, you know, risk it not going anywhere, quite frankly, or just not be in it at all. And so I think that's the thing we have to sell on employees. Cause I think, especially this younger generation, not to like put them all in a box, but I think they all expect to move up a lot faster than is humanly possible. But I also think that they don't realize the effort and energy it requires. And I don't think that they believe that the effort and energy will be worth it if they don't get exactly what they want. And sometimes in life, the best lessons come from the things you didn't get, even though you put in the work. Like, and I'm not going to give them that spiel because I'm, you know, I mean, maybe I will because I might, but we shouldn't. Don't be me, um, is what I'm saying. But I think I'm not really answering your question directly. I just think that like it's very hard to pin down because it's like, what are the variables with
Mhm.
who is trying to move up? Do they believe in the company? Do they not believe in the company? And then like it's kind of like one big flow chart, right? Like, do they believe or not believe? That's to me the first question. If they believe, the path to development is a lot easier. If they don't believe, that's where the turnover piece comes in and everything else. Cause you're like, okay, well, now I have to first make them believe. And then it's like that second sort of choice on in the flow chart is, but what would make this person believe? Is it money? Is it meaning? Is it hard work? Like, what is the thing? And then we get to the thing. And now I have to build a development plan based on the thing that works for them. Because I think, and I will die on this hill always when it comes to like motivation, I think development, you know, they're interlinked. It really comes down to why does that person get out of bed in the morning? And then that development plan has to kind of like match them because that's just how you get people to actually follow their own plan.
Yeah. Yeah, what's coming to mind is this idea that our friends Roman free say all the time is what needs to exist first for this to work.
Yes.
And I think that's like companies go directly in an attempt to try and improve this engagement score. And again, well intentioned, thinking like this is obviously something our employees care about and they want, let's give it to them. So they invest in development programs, but ignore the conditions required to make them stick,
Hmm.
right? So that's competitive pay, better schedules that lets people live their lives, real coaching, and then career visibility and development programs.
I also think companies just assume that the better pay and better position like speak for themselves in a way, and they don't. And I guess what I mean by that is like I think everyone wants something different out of more, obviously like the money and the position maybe, but some like even if you polled 100 general managers, why do you love being a general manager? You will get answers that range from I love the opportunity to develop people to more selfish answers that are quite frankly very valid of like I like to be in control of my own environment or my own schedule. Um, I like to kind of be the head boss in a building, whatever the reason is. And that's the reason they were motivated to get to that level. And so I don't think you can just assume, like, I think a lot of companies, to your point, are seeing the engagement scores and then they're like, okay, development, learning and development team, uh, get on this, bring the lawyers, um, and get on this. And we need a new development program. That's what we need. We need a new program because everything needs a program. Um, and then what does it look like? And then they launch it to the stores and then they say, like, this is really exciting. We're actually going to restructure because of this. I've actually seen this happen in a company or two where they add new like lead positions. And the best part is these lead positions are never paid any different than the regular positions because this is like but if you want to grow, you're going to become a lead. Isn't that exciting? And to me, it would be exciting. I think the one thing companies could do to get people to take those unpaid things that are like steps into the next thing is give them autonomy they wouldn't have if they weren't a lead. And if you're not doing that, then you're just giving someone more responsibility without the control. And that's a burden. Responsibility without control equals burden. That's my math equation. Um, and so they launched this program and they don't even know why people answered that. And you've said that before, like there isn't like enough digging in. But also they're launching this program and they're not thinking about why would someone want these positions besides the fact that they're positions and they're paid.
Right.
And I think, I mean, sometimes that information is in a job ad, but internally it's not communicated well.
Okay, so I'm going to jump. This is a perfect segue into a core tension that I had listed. So I'll jump to that and then we'll go back. The core tension is training does not equal development.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just talked about. We're L&D, we're going to build this new training
Mm-hmm.
system, whatever, restructuring. But I think there's a disconnect in the effectiveness and accessibility of training for store level employees. So, a lot of retailers now have very impressive sounding training libraries and
Mm-hmm.
robust e learning modules, and no shortage of just giant LMS systems.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, frontline teams report that they don't fully meet their needs.
Mm-hmm.
So, in your experience, you said you see this happen when these new learning sections, modules, whatever they are, come up. Are they good? Do they help?
They're a good thing to have.
Yeah.
They're good to be there for reference.
Yeah.
It's the same way that, every med student has an anatomy and physiology book or Gray's Anatomy or something like on their bookshelf. It's there for reference, but they're certainly not opening it mid surgery. Um, and so, or you hope not. And so I think there's a lot to be said for what those are. And I think not to like jump the gun,
Mhm.
but I do think when it comes to development, some of what's needed, and I'm thinking about like my own team right now, and then even in the past, the things that have really gotten my employees to like be developed is lots of mistakes on their part. So, like, the ability and like lots of hard conversations between me and them without, and this is so hard for companies to deal with, I don't know why, without punishment.
Yeah.
Because what I don't understand, and I would love someone to riddle me this, why would someone want to move up if moving up comes with a bigger spotlight on you, and all people can see is that that spotlight offers you opportunities to fail and mess up, but be punished or like put on like some sort of like a pip, put on a pip, put them on a pip. Because we just promoted someone and now they're not doing great. And rather than, and the thing is, no one has ever been put on a performance improvement plan and been like, I'm so motivated. I'm going to be the best employee you've ever seen. Just watch me.
Right.
No one. It's never happened. In fact, they get them, they go home, they complain to their partner, their friends, their family, and then their partner, their friend, their family hopefully gives them the right advice, which is you probably should leave. And then you lose yet another person.
Yeah.
And because we're so risk averse in retail, it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
As if, again, putting the sweater in the wrong place, or quite frankly, even one bad review, you know, no company wants a bad review, and I get no company wants a viral moment. But cancel culture in companies doesn't really exist. There are many companies that have had multiple bad viral moments, and they're still billion-dollar corporations. You're gonna be just fine. And so if you're gonna be just fine, you actually have the space and the wiggle room to develop someone and give them their moment to not only shine, but to err and have that be okay. And even as a leader, and I think that's a lot of reason why people aren't even excited to be leaders right now, because they're like, okay, so the only thing leadership brings me is more responsibility and the ability to get in trouble because we're not developing. And when a leader inevitably messes up, and let's say they mess up not with a sweater, or let's not take it to a big viral moment, the in between. And I would say the in between is an employee under them does something wrong, and that new leader snaps. And they, in a very unprofessional manager, are like, John, what the hell? That's not how we do it. And you know it. Like, I asked you to do it that way, do it this way. Now John has a complaint. Now your new leader is frustrated because like he's not being respected or listened to. And most of the time, new leaders don't understand why they're not listened to or respected, and they need help and development. A lot of times I feel like the answer is, well, first of all, we're going to make Tom, the manager, uh, go rewatch Coaching with Care, the e-learning module,
Mm-hmm.
section 2, video 5. Um, and then after he watches it, maybe we're going to ask him some like probing questions to see, do you understand why that you can't yell at John when like, and the reality is like, that's okay. Maybe that video is helpful, but two things need to be true in your store environment to move forward. John actually needs to have compassion for Tom and that he is new in the role, and that, and maybe an apology would be good, but like he needs to understand that like we're all human, including leaders. Like leaders get to be human. My God. I mean, we don't allow it a lot, but let's be real. We're human. We make mistakes. I have snapped at an employee for sure. I have said some unkind things to an employee, definitely. And I think this road where we're like, well, that's HR now it's become a thing. And it doesn't need to always be a thing. Sometimes it's just people are human. Let's deal with it. Like, kick the lawyers out of the room for just 30 seconds, shall we? And so, but the other thing that needs to happen is John needs to really, I mean, Tom needs to really understand how to be a leader and how he could have better approached that situation. And the answer isn't to make him never lead John again. The answer is like, he has to do it again, but better, because that will improve their working relationship, and it will prove to John that Tom is a capable leader, and it will prove to Tom that he actually can get quality results out of people without yelling. And in order to get them there, It's not just going to be a video. It's also going to be some like real talk. And I'm going to get some flack if there are some HR people listening. But like if I was alone in that office and that employee is known to be like high performer, but like a little bit of an attitude, and we've all had them, they're the worst. I'll die on that hill. But anyway, um, I mean, if I'm alone in a room with that manager developing them, I might actually say, listen, John is a button pusher. Like sometimes I would love to scream at him as well, but that is not how we lead in this store, because that is not what gets people's best performance. And here are some methods. And I need you to go do it again. You're going to feel awkward. He's going to feel awkward. Everyone is going to be uncomfortable because now the whole store probably knows. And now the whole store is going to watch you two every time you talk to each other. And you are the leader. So you need to lead that conversation and own it and show everyone you can be a leader and you're not going to get in the gutter with him. Um, and that's like the real conversation that has to take place. And a video can't do that, because the video doesn't know what just happened. And a
Right.
video can't teach someone empathy. Now, all of this is not possible if I love to yell at Tom,
Right.
because Tom learned from me. So it starts there as well. So, I mean, those are all the complicated pieces, I think.
Damn. Yeah. I feel like what's underneath what you're saying is a necessary desire, skill, tendency for self-reflection as a
Mhm.
leader, right? So, like you specifically said, you snapped at employees. You are a very measured, easygoing, empathetic type of leader. How did you get there? Like, what led up to that point where you became maybe a little bit not like yourself and snapped at someone? And then how did you either self-develop or how did the company help develop you to not do that next time or understand what happened and why so that it doesn't get repeated?
I mean, for me personally, I am always in my head. So
Right.
I'm, pretty reflective. So I think for me, it's sort of like self development in some ways of like, oh, well, that didn't go right. Um, and also really thinking about, uh, did I, and actually I had a leader say this to me recently about himself. And it was like, I was so proud because I was like, oh, it's going to be so much easier to develop you because you already know where you went wrong. And so to me, it's just, first of all, you have to apologize to employees. Like, I think some leaders think that that's not a thing. And not to, again, make weird analogies to family dynamics, but like, it's like the parent and the child. Like, you're not infallible because you're a parent, and you're not infallible because you're a leader.
Right.
And so like an apology, but also explaining to the employee, like very, just not very, again, real conversation, honest conversation. I know that HR and the lawyers hate all of that, because they want us to speak fluffy and like speak like an e-training AI bad cartoon. Um, but sitting that employee down and being like, I'm gonna be so for real with you. Um, and say that last Thursday I was frustrated. Here's what's going on in my world in terms of, being a general manager. Here's what I'm worried about. Here's my concerns. I expected better from you. Like, here are the ways that I consistently see your great performance. So when you missed those 6 tasks that you said you were going to complete and then you just didn't complete them, I lost my cool, and that's not okay. And I'm really sorry. I don't want any employee in my building to ever feel like I am not a place they can turn to or ask questions. And I don't want anyone to feel like I'm, singling them out or attacking them. Um, so just know that like I'm really sorry. And I want to move forward. And like, what are your thoughts? Do you need like, is there something you want to share with me? How can we together get to a place where, you know, you're doing what I ask, and I, you know, and I don't get to the place where I blow up, and you don't get to a place where you're hurt, and all that. And how do we get there? And just have that honest conversation. And the first time you have a really honest conversation is going to be so messy, and there's no perfect way to deliver it or receive that conversation. And I think there just needs to be a lot more room for mess.
It sounds like that sounds like self-development to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just and I guess what's coming up is training versus development. Like training is not development. So, how would you define development? How would you define the difference? What does that mean to you?
I think training, I'm going to use a working out example.
Love it.
Um, Hopefully you like it. But I feel like training to me is, you know, someone or something teaching you, okay, here's how to do a proper weighted squat. Okay. This is how you do it. Now show me. Great. You can do it. Love it. You're done. That's training.
Yeah.
To me, development is sometimes with someone else, but sometimes with alone. And it's that same, you're doing that same exercise, but now, and if you're alone, uh it's the motivating yourself to do it, because
Mhm.
that's part of development as well. Like now you're on your own and you're developing and you're getting better, you're getting stronger, your positioning is getting good, your spine is aligned, whatever. Um and so there's that, but then there's also the development that comes with either that same coach or a different one. And now we're upping the weights. Things are getting harder. And now you fall. And
Right.
that coach is like, are you good? You didn't tear anything, you didn't break anything. We don't want you getting up injured. You might need a moment to like recover. Oh, you actually are good. You just got a bruise and your ego is a little damaged. That'll be fine. Now stand up again and do it again. And then doing it again. It's not going back to the lower weight, because you can handle that new weight. You just got to get used to it. And that's development. It's messy. There are mistakes, but it's getting progressively more difficult, and you have to keep rising to that occasion. I think I can only use analogy because I think it's really hard to define the difference in words.
I think that's helpful. It's so training is the mechanics. It's the textbook. It's the words on a screen or in a book or in a handbook. And then the development is the trying to execute and then getting personalized feedback and
Mm-hmm.
help um, getting better.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. A PIP, a performance improvement plan, I'm sure is meant to be development. It is personal, right? It is based on what something that really happened, usually in the field. Why doesn't it land? Why doesn't it work?
So my hot take is that either no one should have one or everyone should have one. Not out of like some sort of like odd fairness thing, but because I think when only people have them who are struggling, regardless of a company's intentions, and let's be so for real, the intention most of the time is to have a reason to fire that person eventually. Um, but even if there are HR professionals there out right now listening and they're like, no, it's not. We at my company, we really use it to blah, blah, blah. That's not how it feels. And
Mhm.
also, I would argue everyone should have one anyway. And whether we call it a PIP or a development plan or whatever, I think everyone should have even if your plan and your goal is to like just stay and roll, you don't want to move up, you're a cashier, whatever the job is, and you just want to be a cashier, you're in college, it's never going to be your full-time job. I think you should still have one, because I think we should all have a rubric for knowing how we're performing against ourselves, what is expected of us, what we want to do to grow or what not to grow, with formalized, like regular check ins. And I think if that existed, then one, reviews become a lot easier. And then two, we kind of all know where we stand and there's no surprises. And then also no one would have a feeling about being on one because they know like the 20-hour a week cashier has one. Um, and now you have one and maybe yours is a little bit more serious because you need some serious development or you've made some missteps. But that way we're kind of all on this, we're all being developed, which we are supposedly. But we don't treat it like that until it becomes like a 5 alarm fire.
Right. So it's almost just a stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
So just the way in which it is used, it's usually after things have gone wrong substantially. Everyone just knows it means like I'm not doing well, officially on record. Right.
It's the dunce cap for the 21st century.
Oh, no. Oh man. Okay. So you had mentioned, the 20-hour a week cashier. That kind of leads into another core tension that I had listed that I've always wondered about with, all of these meetings that I've been a part of that talk about, you can grow here. This is more than a job. It's a career. It's more than just retail, that's my least favorite slogan I've ever heard. The
Same.
core, yeah. The core tension here is there's just more ambition than positions, right? Like it's not a ladder, it's a pyramid. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're actually interested in quote unquote moving up with the company, let's say you're having a good time, let's say you think it's interesting, the math just doesn't math for everybody who wants to do that to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for one, am I missing something? Are there other ways to develop that you think would satisfy this type of ambition? Or is this just why so many retailers have the turnover rate they do because there's just more ambition than positions?
There's definitely not more ambition than positions. That is not the case.
Say more.
Um, in most places, I would say there's not more ambition than positions. I think a lot of people, I think one of the things that's discounted, and I actually was thinking about this the other day, I think we need this episode. I need this episode. I think we need to do an episode and we'll need a guest or two actually, um, for what COVID has done to retail. Because I think it's so real and no one talks about it and we all pretend like it's not there. And it is. And one of those things is a lot of ambition in retail got sucked out with COVID. And I think it's a variety of factors. It's not one or two. It's multi-layered. It's societal. It's cultural. It's people thinking about what works mean to them. What do they want to do? How do they want to spend their time? What really matters? What doesn't matter? So many things. So, for a later episode. But I think right now, in most companies, it's not that there's more ambition than there are positions. That has happened to me. I actually think it's a terrible place to be in as a leader because you can't give everyone what they want. It's actually one of the hardest positions to be in. I think the best stores that run have a mix of ambitious people who want to stay and are good, and then people who you actually need to work on improving. Like, I actually think all three are necessary. I've actually had teams of like all high performers. It's actually miserable. I never want it again. Um, don't 10 out of 10 don't recommend. Um, because people are then like really clawing for positions that don't exist. Also, you can't keep everyone intellectually satisfied because they're like all need more. And I'm like, okay, well, at this point, like I need you to just go home and do a crossword or read a book because I can't like provide all of your stimulation. Um, but I think really the issue is companies don't know how to, back to your pyramid thing. I think companies don't know how, I mean, think about all the places that externally hire.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people complain about that with good reason, but there also are a lot of places where you go to find the next key holder, supervisor, assistant manager, and you look in your pool and you're like, there's no one here. Okay, well, I guess we're going external. So sometimes you have no choice. And I think one of the issues is companies don't know how to figure out internally who wants, because we're asking really bad questions of like, do you want to be a key holder? Do you want to be an assistant manager? And sometimes people don't know what that means, what that entails. And often earlier in my career, when I didn't know how to ask those questions, I would get a lot of people who, again, felt like safe with me to be like, what does Natalie even do? Like, because that would be a key holder. Like, and I'd have to explain what Natalie does. And then that person would be like, oh, wow, I actually respect her because she kind of looks like she's not doing a lot, but she is. She's just making it look easy. Um, And so they don't even know what you're asking of them. And so a lot of people's default to say no, or like, no, I'm good. Or like, I don't think so, or I don't think I could do it. Rather than asking more open-ended questions of like, what's in your future? Like, what's happening with you? You gonna go be a Broadway singer? Like, um, you gonna go, on America's Next Talent and start juggling flaming swords? Like, what are you doing? And especially if that person doesn't know, but you think that they would be good. I mean, I've promoted more people this way. To be like, here's what the position entails. I think you'd be great. And and then also use that conversation because it's so safe in that first conversation and it sets you up in the future. It's like giving your future self a hug, trust me, is to say to that employee, and here's where I think you're going to struggle. And that is what we're going to work on. But I think you got this. And that way, too, when you get them in position and then you start to coach them on the thing that you knew what they were going to struggle with, they're not taking it personally. They're not like, oh my God, you said I would be great at this. And now you're making me feel like I suck at this. You were already honest. You already said this is where you're going to struggle. But I still think, despite the fact that you're going to struggle in that area, it should be you. And I want you to think about it. And then put no pressure timeline. Well, sometimes there needs to be a slight timeline, but like kind of back away and let them fester and stew and think about it. But I think we need to supply some of the ambition now, is really my long way of getting to that point. I think we're the ones who need to look around and rather than just always go, well, I guess we're going external, be like, no, I need to light the ambition fire here and figure out who is willing to step it up and give them a reason to. And again, I think this is where I go back to my earlier point. I think companies are thinking if you just post a position on the wall, even with the salary, someone in your midst is going to jump at it. And if they don't, they either aren't ready or, well, we'll hire someone externally because clearly no one wants it. As if it's not our job to tell them why they should want it. And let me be real clear, it is our job to make them understand why they should want it. And if we don't know why they should want it, I don't even know why we're in our positions.
Yeah. I think people really underestimate the power of a leader, especially if it's someone's, one of their first work experiences. A leader saying they see something in you is so powerful,
Mm-hmm.
especially if that person isn't getting that kind of validation or confirmation at home, which
Mm-hmm.
is very often the case, fortunately. A couple things I really like about what you just said. So many people that I talk to, even in the corporate and executive level, listening to podcasts, reading books, it sounds like everybody, not every, most people fall into retail.
Mm-hmm.
Or this idea that like they didn't grow up and no, it wasn't necessarily like this is my family legacy or I've always known I wanted to do this. It was just like I started here and someone saw something in me and then like a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I really like that idea of you feeling like it's part of your job to develop, set the destination for the development,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like just go ahead and put that in someone's head, even if they're not thinking it, because they're probably not. I also love the idea of pre-framing, right? Like tell them where they're going to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do that with everything in life. It makes everything so much easier, from the gym to like outdoor, outside of work. Telling people that this is a common hang up or this is something that's going to happen makes it, I think, both just more approachable to the person who's about to face that challenge. But then, like you said, for you as the manager to then coach that person through that, I think is a great call out. Maybe you can explain, like, let's get really specific then about development in retail in a store.
Mhm.
Talk to me about what it means. Like, what is the first step beyond hourly associate? Is it key holder?
For most places, yeah. Key holder,
And
supervisor, yeah.
what does an hourly, what do you see in an hourly associate to, and then what needs to happen for them to grow and develop into the key holder role?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I see something different in a lot of people, but it can be a different quality, which means I have to work on something different, which um when I was at Old Navy, I promoted, I think it was 3 key holders like at once. Also 10 out of 10 don't recommend. Um, all internal, all at once. But the great thing is they all had different things that I saw that made them potentially great key holders, and all had opportunities that were different, which meant my store as a whole wasn't like missing one thing at once. So some of them had a lot of buy-in with their peers. So that's one of the things I look for. Like, do peers naturally look to that person as like, well, you know what the hell's going on. What do we do now? Because that person maybe just has like that thing in them that people look up to, or they just have a commanding presence. Um, and so like there was one of those people in that group that possessed that quality, but really struggled with the like some of the more like operational tasks. So I had like the people leadership down, but the operational things not so great. There was another person who was like an ops dream and had, you know, all the ducks in a row, could command you know, a large scale project with, and man, she made it look easy. I still to this day think she's magic. And also, I don't know if she listens to podcasts, but she's on LinkedIn. Shout out to Sanchez because she's one of the most phenomenal employees I've ever seen, like in my life. Um, but like as far as like peer stuff went at the time, she was young, maybe like 19 or so. Um, didn't have the influence. She was a transfer from another store. So like had to work on like building the rapport with peers and getting them to follow her lead. So having those two things at once, they actually, we got to have them help each other. But to backtrack to go to your original question, Mac, I look for something different. Maybe it's something small. And a cashier, is it them doing things we never asked but need to happen? Are they like during a really busy day, even though maybe especially if they're not the most tenured or the oldest, and they're like cleaning up the hangers and they're taking out the trash, and like that cash wrap when they're like on is immaculate, but they're also still ringing. They're not doing those tasks to avoid customers because that's a red flag rather than a green flag. Um, but it's like it's little things like that 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 person might just do innately. They don't even think they're doing anything special. They're just doing what they think they should be doing. And it's that employee too that when you tell them that, like, I see you and you're amazing. They're usually it's those employees who are like, wait, what? I just was cleaning up hangers. Why is that special? And I'm like, because most people just leave the hangers.
Right.
um, not hard to stick out. So it's really looking for, it's being observant and looking for those little things that people are doing that is either, again, is it with their peers or is it with the tasks? Is there something I can use? Is there potential there that I can help mold and create? It's my favorite part of my job, honestly.
Yeah. And then what does that look like if you can, if it's reasonable to explain
Well, I mean,
in
I
a
think I'll use one example. So I think seeing someone handle the like cash wrap immaculately when they're not being asked to is then having them use their strength. It's not when you're first developing someone, it is not time to work on their opportunities yet. Um, Strength first, opportunities, we'll get there. So that strength is that they manage that well. Well, now we're going to put you in a formal Black Friday's coming up. You're in charge of the cash wrap.
right.
You're all on it. You're going to send your fellow cashiers on break. You're going to make sure the check lanes, all the little tchotchke things that a lot of retailers sell, are full. You're going to make sure hangers, trash, like you, that is, I, as the general manager on Black Friday, am going to step away a little bit because I'm going to give you this opportunity. That would not be their first opportunity, just so I'm clear.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, that would be where that would be their first big. We will have done several Saturdays before we get there. I just want people to know I wouldn't put someone on a Black Friday as their first responsibility, but that would ultimately be the step before the promotion.
Right.
So run Black Friday. Now you're a key holder. Now we have to work on the things you're not great at. But again, we will have prefaced that in a conversation where I say, here's what you were great at. I'm building their confidence by having them do something they were basically already doing, but in like a more official capacity and on a bigger volume day. And now, and this is the key, two things are going to happen. Well, one of two things are going to happen, or maybe both. They're going to do it flawlessly. And at the end of the day, they have the utmost confidence in themselves. And now you can launch them forward into being a key holder and work on their opportunities, which again, you've prefaced. Great. Love it. The other thing is mistakes were made. They struggled, they flailed. And this is where I'm still promoting that person, most likely. I need to say that. But this is also where a great opportunity for you as a leader comes and for their development. You get to prove to them that even on the biggest day of the year, making a mistake is not the end of the world because we got you. Your team, we have you. The assistant manager, they're going to sub in for you for a minute. Take an extra 10 minutes. That you got flustered, take a 10-minute. In fact, here's my debit card. Go get yourself a coffee or a treat and, get back with it. So that's going to teach them mistakes are okay. And then they're going to come back and then they're going to know that you have their back when they are in that role and that mistakes aren't the end of the world and it doesn't mean that they can't handle it. So either way, you get the opportunity as leader to prove to them that they can do it and set the expectation for the future. There's no bad outcome. There's none.
Right.
Because it's just clothing or perfume or housewares or whatever it is, and we'll all be fine.
Yeah. And mistakes are not only not the end of the world, they're expected. It
Mm-hmm.
is very normal.
The first thing I used to tell a barista at Starbucks is because I thought the preface really helped was, so you're going to get on bar. It's scary. It's busy.
Yeah.
And I used to always joke, if you only break one glass and knock over 3 drinks, you're doing better than I do. Because first of all, I'm super klutzy, like in general. And I used to always joke with people and eventually they'd see it. I'm like, I will spill something. I'm in charge. Someone let me
Yeah.
be in charge of this multi-million-dollar business. And I love to spill a drink. In fact,
Right.
there was a day I knocked out almost the entire pickup area. You know the pickup area with all the drinks? Starbucks?
Yes.
I knocked out like 12 drinks in the middle of peak. And then it was while we were training someone, and I literally looked over at her. I go, "You can't do worse than me." But I think setting the expectation that like you're gonna make a mistake, like it's not only is it possible, you will,
Yeah.
and we all do, really helps people go, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So to kind of summarize what we've talked about, what actually works, what I'm hearing is real development is messy. You've
Mm.
said it multiple times. It is not programmatic. It is not a scheduled, seated learning module. Um, Mentorship, stretch assignments, like you talked about, right? Like getting them, on a Saturday, and the visibility of seeing other people do that in your store is far more important and far more likely to move the needle on your engagement surveys in terms of favorability when it comes to development than certificates or completion rates or gamified learning.
Hmm.
The best development, in short, the best development, it's coming from store managers, not necessarily from HR or L&D. That said, in the true nature of Dear Corporate, Love Stores, what do you need from corporate to be able to play that critical role? What has gotten in your way?
Again, because I can only apparently answer questions in story form or analogies. One time when I was at Old Navy, I had a visit from a regional director, and it was when one of those supervisors was promoted, and his department was men's and boys. And so, and they looked not great, not amazing. And luckily for me, that regional director knew that I had just promoted someone and then gave me feedback in front of that key holder and also to that key holder directly with me present about the department. His feedback to him was much gentler than to me, which is fine. That's how it should be. But he knew that he was new and we weren't punished collectively that men's and boys kind of look like meh. And I think what we need is those people above to understand that in order to develop people, it's going to be messy, which means not all stores can be looking like the visual guide or the book or what you imagine at all times if development is currently happening live right now. Because sure, could I have fixed men's and boys? But then that makes Manny feel like Manny was the key holder. That makes Manny feel like he's terrible. That makes the team maybe resentful that we're having to fix an department and they already have their own work to do. Like it just doesn't breed good sentiment in store. Whereas also having someone at the corporate level come into a store and recognize like, okay, we're like in development right now. This is like me seeing a snapshot in time in the middle of someone on their way to becoming something greater, and that's okay. Also teaches the employees like, okay, we're allowed to like, have a start. I think there's this weird thing in retail where we, with all the high turnover and with all the supposed development, we act like everyone is a 15-year tenured employee and we have no care in the world. Just vibing over here with a perfect store. And I think so what we need is just that understanding. I don't think I actually here's what I'm saying. It's free. What we need from you is free. I don't need another program. I don't need anyone to work on anything. We just need people to know that when people are in development. Now, if you walked into that same store and everyone in that employee is a 15-year, everyone in that store is a 15-year tenured employee, sure, be mad.
Right.
Rip me a new one. Tell me I suck as a GM. Whatever you got to do, whatever you feel is appropriate. But like, I think corporate leaders, and I mean all the way up to the CEO, while you're on your private jet or the company jet flying from California or wherever you fly from, and they give you the little like dossier on our store, which I know they do because there's no way you have all those stores memorized. In there somewhere should be Matt, GM, in position, 3 years. So and so, ASM, in position, 15 years. Manny, key holder, men's and boys, in position, 2 weeks. Like that should be what they see. And then the expectation should match the reality. And that's just what we need. Expectation to match reality. That's it. That's all I need. I need nothing else.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Any final thoughts?
That's it.
Well done. Appreciate it as always, Matt. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're listening to Dear Corporate, Love Stores.